conference is down in our conference preview series, and just a meager 28 to go. And on this edition of the show, El Capitan joins me to chop it up about a conference that feels about as wide open as ever after experiencing big losses, not only in the portal, but also in the coaching ranks. It's Big South time, recording live from somewhere. This is One and Done.
Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
It's time once again for everybody to come aboard that One and Done train. Welcome to One and Done. Bienvenidos a todos a One and Done, your fast break of college basketball información. We're powered by the galaxy's greatest website. And if you don't know, now you know. It's drroto.com. I'm your sometimes humble host. My name is Jay Heinrich. I'm the conductor of this whole thing, the old aforementioned One and Done train. Follow me on X at Dr. William Cannon, but not before you follow this man. Around here, he's known as El Capitan, the captain of the One and Done ship at MC Holland 34 on X, the OG Money Mike, Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, what it do? It's Big South time.
It's Big South time, man. So excited to be doing another conference preview. We're going to be doing probably 3 a week as we're getting close to 90 days until opening tip, man. So pretty excited about that. We've already done the America East, the A-Sun, and the Big Sky. So if you missed those shows, they're actually different than things that we normally do. We normally get on and talk for an hour and 15 minutes about DFS. Well, conference preview shows are less than 30 minutes, so get all the information you need about the mid-majors as we lead on up to the Power 5, man. But yeah, I'm ready to jump on it and get to talking some Big South tonight.
At One and Done CBB on all the socials is where you can find us. Hit us up. Mostly on X is where we are most active. We appreciate any follows over there on Elon's hellhole. But also make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons right here on YouTube. Some of you are watching on X. We can see that. We appreciate you. Get over to YouTube. Type in WON, One and Done College Basketball. I just did it about 15 minutes ago. All of our stuff pops up. You can find our page. Hit that subscribe button. Pushing the buttons tonight, Mike, our guy, Eric the Blue. We drug him out of whatever hole he's been hiding in for a while to get him back in the saddle again. Pushing those ones and twos. Shout out to Eric the Blue at Fantasy Nav in those Twitter streets, the best fantasy follow this side of the Mississippi. And then, of course, don't forget at the Real Napier as well, our guy, CC Hustle, the Hall of Famer himself. Yeah, Mike, you mentioned it. We're running through every single conference in the country this year, even the Ivy League. Yes, even the Ivy League. We've done America East, A-Sun, and Big Sky, and it's Big South time. So let's get to it as we see Darren. Of course, Darren's in the live chat. Who else?
Darren's ready on a Sunday.
What would you rather be doing than talking Big South on an early August evening?
SummerSlam evening.
Yeah. And so I told Mike, I was joking in the chat, I figured Cody Rhodes and John Cena would stop kicking out of each other's finishes by 9:30. It almost didn't happen. 9:30 Central, I should say. But yeah, good shout there, Darren, for sure. And Darren letting us know, in his opinion, the biggest rivalry being Winthrop and UNC Asheville. So, of course, we have not only the liveliest live chat in all of college hoops, but we also have some of the smartest hoop heads in the country hanging out with us. And Darren is a good example of that. So hop in there with Darren for sure. Let's get to Big South, Mike. Last year, 18th out of 31st, or that's easy for me to say, 18th out of 31 in Ken Palm strength of conference. And yeah, it was high point. 14-2 in the conference, ran away from everyone to win the regular season title. And then also beat Winthrop in the conference tourney title game to earn the coveted 14 seed against Mr. Point Guard himself, Braden Smith, and the Purdue Boilermakers. That was actually one, Mike, that we paid a lot of attention to see which line that they would fall on.
It was a good game.
And that was a popular upset pick on a lot of brackets. But, of course, Purdue prevailed in the end. Okay, so, 18th out of 31 last year. What are your thoughts moving forward, though, Mike? Is this a conference that can continue to almost be right there at that midpoint in the country in terms of strength of conference, or is this a conference that might take a dip?
Yeah, I was a little surprised they were able to get up to 18th. That seems kind of like a ceiling. 9 teams, right? But there's a lot of volatility in this league, and we've talked about that already. We mentioned the ASUN, right? And there wasn't any volatility when we talked America East, but 4 different NCAA tourney teams in the last 5 years for this conference. And interestingly enough, it's been pretty stable as far as membership during the old realignment era over the last 10 years. So, they lost a couple of members a few years ago, but it's largely remained intact. So kudos to the Big South for, retaining its members, almost like the transfer portal. You have to retain your players. So that's been pretty interesting to watch. But there's been a lot of portal madness happening. Kind of like the Big Sky, there's only one all-conference player that's returning. We'll mention him a little bit later in the show. And I thought one thing that was found pretty interesting last year, this conference was second in tempo during conference play. And that's not typically a style that we see in this conference. So pretty interested to see if it's going to continue this way, or if that was more of just a one-off. And that second in tempo actually lended to a massive spike in offensive efficiency within the league. It ranks second in offensive efficiency during conference games in the entire country. So a lot of fun offense. If that continues, this will be a fun one to watch. And yeah, man, I think we're probably going to see some of the same contenders, but it seems like every year the conference title or the conference tournament title game lends ourselves somebody new trying their hand at the NCAA tournament.
Why not, right? 9 teams. If with the conference in a conference
Yeah.
with 9 teams, like you almost feel like if you get a couple of bounces, it
Yeah.
could go anybody's way in the regular season for sure. And then you get a good enough seed. And, we've seen weirder things happen than low seeds win these conference tournaments for sure. So anybody could be in the run-in, including the Gardner-Webb Running Bulldogs, breaking down the low tier. Let's start with the low tier, or the foundation of the conference, as I like to call it. Try to be a little bit more positive here. The Gardner-Webb Running Bulldogs, 5-11 last year. Mike, Coach Jeremy Luther, first year in D1. I think it was safe to say that there were some ups and downs, some peaks and valleys for sure. Sitting at 500 through 8 conference games. And then just sort of, the weaknesses really started to show. Couldn't take care of the ball, right? Like in any level, any league, if you can't take care of the ball, that's going to spell disaster. And floor spacing was pretty awful too. It was kind of hard to watch, to be honest with you, from time to time. But with that being said, this is sort of an uncertain situation here, because this is just a roster that's been completely overhauled, more or less. Any key to success will hinge on the health and the impact that Ace Talbert brings, formerly of St. Francis, Mike, and just, double-digit guy, only played 5 games before getting hurt. But even with him, the Running Bulldogs may have a hard time running up the score against anyone, Mike.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way about USC Upstate, the Spartans here, man. 2 wins in conference play, so down there in the cellar. Coach Dave Dickerson, he does return a largely intact roster. So we've had kind of this debate before, right? That offers continuity, but how good is it when you bring back a team that only won 2 games, right? You like to see, obviously, some progress in order to take the next step. Poor defense, limited spacing for the Spartans as well, so pretty similar to Gardner-Webb there. But look, they got a couple of nice guards coming back. Carmani Gregory averaged 11 points, 4 assists at the point guard position. Carmelo Atkins can score as well. He's a double-digit guy. So they have a solid backcourt foundation. This is a really fast team. They played at the 5th fastest tempo. So efficiency's obviously got to improve. I think if it does, I think they could win 6+ games. Like, I could see a step forward here, but when you're at 2 conference wins, Jay, like, yeah, you triple your win total, you're still here in the low tier, man. So I kind of feel that way about the Spartans.
Makes a lot of sense. Darren has a really nice question in the chat. Bigger influence on the conference, transfer portal or incoming freshmen? Mike, from time to time, we take a look at these sort of lower tier conferences, definitely one bid conferences. And of course, they're usually the ones that are getting ravaged by the transfer portal, guys moving up, getting opportunities elsewhere. So sometimes those incoming freshmen that aren't as popular, I should say,
Right.
aren't taken as often.
Surprises.
Yeah, exactly. So you're a little bit more likely to see some surprises when it comes to those incoming freshmen. So from
But
that
those guys usually
perspective,
transfer after one
right?
season.
After one season, right? So again, like, are there any, is there any situation where the Big South, you know, of course, can try to find that? Of course, there's a diamond in the rough here and there that is just going to show up out of nowhere, right? But in terms of just these one bid conferences in general, the transfer portal or incoming freshmen, who has the bigger impact?
Man, I think it's really the JUCO guys and the Big Dippers or the D2 guys, right? Like Big Dippers, obviously, we'll talk about some that are coming into this conference, but those are the guys that, and sometimes even they come down. And by Big Dipper, we're talking about, Power 5 players that transfer down. Maybe they're not playing a lot or they had an injury. All of a sudden, they start putting up big numbers. They have more eligibility. Sometimes they go back up to the Power 5 level. Sometimes they stay. Like Drew Pember obviously was an elite player in the Big South for a couple of years, but you look at what he did at Tennessee, right? He wasn't even really playing. So it's kind of one of those things. I think if you find a P5 guy that wants some opportunity, I think those are a little more trusting than a freshman coming in that's maybe not highly rated by services. Or then the JUCO guys, really. I mean, because it's still JUCO competition versus like, I don't say lower mid major level, but like the sub 20 to 31 conferences. You can even throw the 18 in there. I think those guys obviously make a huge impact, and those guys usually only have a year or two left, so they typically stay. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Whoever catches that one diamond in the rough could absolutely change the trajectory of the entire conference.
Good stuff, Darren. Good question. Appreciate that, and appreciate Mike's insight there as well. Before we move to the mid-tier, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Join 1,550 at least. That was the number when I checked last. So join, at least your closest 1,550 friends and hit that subscribe button right now on the YouTube channel. One and Done College Basketball, WON ampersand DONE College Basketball. Type it in and find Jabrowski's. Hit that button. We appreciate you. Notification bell, too. Our guy Darren has his notification bell on. It hops in there, one of the first in the live chat always. It's good to see that. So, be like Darren. Do your part in the one and done universe. Let's get to that mid-tier. And you talked about Drew Pember, Mike. And, yeah, when him stepping out the door, UNC Asheville, Mike Morrell did a good job after Pember's gone, after Pember's leaving or whatever, after he left. My tenses tonight have not been my strong suit, working through using the past, present, and future. We're going to get there. It is Big South after all. We'll work through it for the Big South teams. But yeah, another wave of losses now for Coach Mike Morrell as Jordan Marsh, almost 19 points a game. Bye-bye. Heading to USC. 11-5 last year in the conference, Mike, but now going to have to rely on Toya Solomon, who averaged almost 16 points and just over 7 boards a game for the Bulldogs. And hey, again, another example of that JUCO eligibility rule helping somebody out, Mike.
Yep, big retain.
Get another year, and you get another year, and you get another year. Solomon is the latest beneficiary that we're talking about. They got that extra year thanks to that JUCO eligibility rule. Second team all Big South last year and set up for a dominant season. So with a young, inexperienced roster around him, though, Mike, the ceiling to win it all, it's hard to envision that unless, again, like you get even a big step forward from Solomon, and then who else, man? Like it's a lot of uncertainty with a lot of these teams. Who's that next? That second, third, fourth options are going to be. Depth could be a concern for them. And but even with Solomon, man, like just having Solomon and Morrell there coaching, like that keeps the floor relatively high. So it's really easy to just slide the Bulldogs right into that mid-tier, man.
Yeah, it feels like they'll probably be an 8-9 win team. Kind of like what we're projecting these next 3 teams, right? We got the Longwood Lancers, Presbyterian Blue Hose, and the Charleston Southern Buccaneers. So with Longwood, they were 7-9 last year. Coach Griff Aldridge, he headed out the dough to Virginia, and former assistant Ronnie Thomas takes over. So a lot of roster turnover here, but there's some potential on this team. You got an A-10 transfer in Jacoy Hutchison from George Washington. Alfonso Billups comes in from VCU. They're both talented. They have experience. I think if the chemistry comes together for the squad, Longwood could be one of the more balanced squads. So, a solid team on both the offensive end and defensive end here in the Big South. Presbyterian, they finished really strong last year. I mean, didn't have high expectations. I believe they were in their low tier from last year, and Coach Quentin Farrell had this team with the second highest KenPom finish since moving to Division One. So kudos to that job there. Lost Corey Mincy, Kobe Stewart, so that's pretty tough for them. But the positive news, and we get these show sheets out, and we try to get all the data, and we got some information pretty recently. They just released their roster. We didn't have their roster a couple of weeks ago online on the website, but Jonah Pierce is going to be back. Granted, a medical redshirt year, he averaged 13 points, 7 rebounds. He's going to be an absolute dominant forward in this league, and they have a really nice front court. Jalen Peterson, Iverson King. This is probably one of the top front courts in the Big South. So definitely like Presbyterian to be here in the mid tier. And then with Charleston Southern, you got Coach Sodden Emily, made his debut season last year, and some problems with turnovers, poor shooting. Sounds pretty familiar from a couple of teams that we talked about down in the low tier. But it's a full roster reset, Jay, and you got some additions from the JUCO and D2 ranks like a lot of these schools do. But they got a big boost here. Alan Sumler, he redshirted last season due to injury, but he averaged 14 points per game in the 23-24 season. So he's going to help fill the void a lot of losing the Big South player of the year to Jay Kelly. He averaged 20.5 points, so that's obviously a massive loss for them. But then you get a player back that you were expecting, that you didn't play with last year, who was a big part of your program. So that's a big boost for them. And so I think when you look at it, like Charleston Southern, man, I think they have a pretty high floor, and I think they're going to be one of the better defenses in this league, which isn't something that we've really talked about so far with these teams.
The depth in the defense in these one bid conferences, right? Who can sustain the injuries? Who can just find a way to make it through the season and not end up with, because these guys, you look at a team, UNC Asheville 11-5 last year, obviously losing a big name player there in Marsh, but a guy that, again, like, don't you think that this is a team that could just find a way to get it to, who knows, put it together. Like this mid-tier, like our guy Cam says, is wide open. Shout out to Cam for hopping in there.
Yeah.
And it does feel wide open. And even though you lose a guy, like Drew Pember, you lose him, and then last year they still go 11-5, right? Like you find a way to get it done in this conference. Good coaching, good players. Make things happen, and we'll see if Charleston Southern, again, we talk the adjustments that these players make from JUCO and D2. It's huge, and who adapts the best can be that team to make the jump in this conference. Shout out to Cam for hopping in there. Our guy CT Huggin, C Thuggin. Better late than never, but never late is better. Shout out to him for always showing up in the live chat once he sees we're on. And bring in the heat as well. I'm telling you, we've got the smartest hoop heads in the live chat. No doubt about it. 100. We all know that. And we appreciate everybody for participating. Hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Big South fans. Shout out to you for hanging out with us here on One and Done. And shout out to our guys for hopping in the live chat, the liveliest live chat in all of college hoops. Like and subscribe, notification bells. Cam said that it's wide open, in his opinion, after the top two. Well, we have 3 teams in our top tier: High Point, Radford, and Winthrop. I'm very interested to hear your take on the Highlanders of Radford, Mike. But I'm gonna go ahead and set it up on the tee for me, and because I have the microphone, you will listen to every word I have to say, and I'm going to take High Point.
Let's go
here. 14-2 last year, back-to-back magical years under now Creighton head coach and waiting Alan Huss, laying the foundation now, and new head coach Flynn Clayman, who's spent a couple of years under Huss here at High Point. It feels like he really hasn't skipped a beat this offseason, put together a stacked roster via the portal, and I mean, I don't think it's too hard to say that he's going to keep this momentum rolling. At least it feels like it right now. Proven mid-major guards Rob Martin, Vincent Brady, and Scotty Washington leading that backcourt. All those guys averaged at least 13.5 points per game last season. And the front court is just as dangerous, to be honest. Owen Aquino and former Power 5 recruit Cameron Fletcher. Xavier fans, that might ring a bell to you guys. But yeah, and then add in key pieces, Babacar Diallo, Conrad Martinez, Yusosu Singare. Like, these are all names that have either played at high level institutions or have proven themselves at the mid-major level. Why would we expect a drop off with High Point, Mike? I
Yeah.
don't think that we could even say, like, are you, if I set the over under for their conference wins at 13.5 right
Yeah.
now, you'd have to
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah, you would have to think about it 100%. I think that's probably I really think they're going to be the dominant team in the league. Yeah, we have these other two, right? Radford and Winthrop. I think there's more question marks than what you see. Obviously, the big question mark for High Point is going to be the shift, right, to Clayman, and then putting all these guys together that have had success or have potential to be super successful together. So we'll see how that works out. But definitely 10 plus wins for sure. Very top of the conference here. Radford. Oh man, so Coach Darius Nichols he departed, took the LaSalle job, and you got Zach Chu taking over from SMU's staff. He was in an admin role. So this is a kind of an interesting move. So while the roster is brand new, we have a roster that's full of proven players and upside. We got Tennessee Tech transfer Jalen Johnson. He averaged 14 points, 5 assists. He's going to be one of the better guards in the league. And then you have a influx of Power Five. Type transfers here. We got Del Jones coming in from Clemson, NC State's Dennis Parker, Minnesota's Brennan Rigsby, and also they got Tulane's Mari Jordan, who really flashed during the season for them. So that's a lot of talent to work with. So a great job of getting all these guys into the program for year number 1 here. And I think this offense has a pretty good chance to be elite, kind of up there with High Point. And if the defense can hold up, obviously we're going to have Radford in here as a serious contender. And then Winthrop just seems like they kind of steady the course every year, right? Like Coach Mark Prosser, he's kept them competitive throughout his tenure. They've never finished below 500 under his tutelage here. So he's going to need to replace 2 guys that we talked about a lot last year in that front court, Kelton Talford and KJ Doucette. But when you add Dalen Berry from Charleston Southern, who averaged 14 points per game, you get an A10 transfer at point guard with a lot of experience, and Duquesne's Kareem Rozier, who averaged 7 points and 3 assists as a table setter. I think this version of Winthrop could be a little more diverse offensively, but definitely going to need to improve the perimeter shooting to reach any type of ceiling here. But as always, Prosser is going to have a really tough squad. So I think we do have, High Point, just kind of the if we had a very, the very, very top tier, right? Like I think you kind of split it, right? It's kind of like 1A and 1B in the top tier. I think you definitely would have High Point up there at the very top, and then Radford and Winthrop kind of jockeying for that number 2 position there.
Winthrop, Radford, and High Point in our high tier. UNC Asheville, Longwood, Presbyterian, and Charleston Southern in the old mid tier. And down in that foundation of the conference, the lower tier, Gardner-Webb Bulldogs, and USC Upstate Spartans. All right, Mike.
It is.
Any closing thoughts here on the Big South before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I'm interested to see if this is going to be a league that continues to run and gun. Like that would be that's what, man, I love the mid majors that just get out and run and shoot threes. And those are the teams that you're not going to find a ton of size in these lower mids, right? So the teams that pull upsets at the 14-15, they typically run up and down and shoot a bunch of threes. So we'll see if that kind of continues, because I think they're 4-33 since the year 2000 in the tournament, right? And most of these mids are going to be that way. But I definitely think High Point's going to be depending on the draw. We didn't love the draw for a lot of these mid majors last year. We thought there were some matchups that could have been a little bit better. Obviously, you get the drop coverage playing against Braden Smith. That was the worst matchup they could have gotten. But yeah, if that kind of continues throughout this conference, I think High Point and maybe even a Winthrop or a Radford could pull an upset as a 14.
Are you telling me you don't like to mid-major? You don't like to watch mid-major teams that try to pretend like they actually like to play defense? Would you rather than just get up and see some friggin' possessions? Yes. Let's see more of that, shall we? But we'll see if it keeps it up here. Again, Mike, you were mentioning before we even got into the tiers, this conference was second in tempo overall last season in the entire country. If that falls down and we don't see as many of those points being scored, and the efficiency sort of stays where it is, that's where you start to see, like you said, 18th out of 31 in strength of conference in KenPom. It does feel like the ceiling, and that relies on that tempo to stay up and down. So we'll see if they keep it going, Mike, in what, again, feels like a wide open conference. Cam was mentioning it. He had a couple of teams. He's got High Point and Radford up there. We've got Winthrop included in that top tier. But again, Mike Morrell out in UNC Asheville.
Can't count them out.
I mean, nobody's going to count them out. Longwood, again, trying to put something together out there for Coach Aldrich. We'll see if it happens. And, yeah, we're going to be here all summer long breaking down college hoops all the way into the season. Not many people talking Big South at the beginning of August, Mike. Right here on One and Done, we're doing it, though, for sure. Bring on the MC Holland 34 Invitational. Indeed, we'll get to that over on DraftKings during the season. We do a lot of DFS content during the regular season, so make sure if you're a DFS cat or kitten, whatever it is, guy, gal, make sure you hit those buttons because we're doing DFS then too. But we're rolling through every single conference preview this year. So make sure you hit those like and subscribe button, notification bells, so you don't miss one single solitary minute of our college basketball coverage. Make sure you follow at The Real Napier, our guy CC Hustle, the Hall of Famer, doing stuff behind the scenes, pushing buttons tonight, though, at Fantasy Nav in those Twitter streets. The best fantasy follow this side of the Mississippi. That's Eric the Blue. Shout out to Eric for hopping in the studio tonight. Always good to see him, even if it's backstage for a little bit, seeing him peek his head over. Hey, guys. Hey, all right, I'm going to go back and push buttons now. Okay. Shout out to you, Eric, for hopping in tonight. And shout out to my guy, El Capitan himself, at MC Holland 34 on X, the captain of the One and Done ship. He does the ship. I did the train. That's Mike Holland, the OG of all OGs, named Money Mike. Upcoming schedule. Everybody, make sure you get your calendars out and put in that we're covering the Horizon League on Tuesday. So that would be August 5th if you don't have if you don't have it all written down right there. That's when we're going to drop the Horizon. And then the 7th, that's the Ivy League. We didn't cover them last year, but we're going to give them some love this year, Mike. Ivy League coming up on Thursday. So be here or be square, whatever you want to call it. Either way, you need to be hanging out with One and Done College Hoop. Shout out to everybody for hanging out with us. Take care of yourself. Tell somebody you love them. My name is JAYHEINRICH. Come again. Peace.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drrodo.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.